over the top. It was only about a quarter of an hour before we reached the dog, but the time passed heavily. I had been annexed by the white maggot. Her presence made me feel as if I were already a corpse. It was the limit, but I think the ordeal served to bring up in my mind some inkling of the true nature of my feeling for Lou. The smoking dog, now ingloriously extinct, was a nightclub decorated by a horrible little cad who spent his life pushing himself into art and literature. The dancing room was ridiculous, meaningless, gaudy, bad imitation of Klimt. Damn it all, I may not be a great flyer, but I'm a fresh air man. I detest these near artists with their poses and their humbug and their swank. I hate shams. I found myself in a state of furious impatience before 5 minutes had passed. Mrs. Webster and Lou had not arrived. 10 minutes, 20. I fell into a blind rage, drank heavily of the vile liquor with which the place was stinking, and flung myself with I don't know what woman into the dance. And you know, I haven't ever drunk an alcoholic beverage, but it doesn't smell nice nonetheless. A shrill voice, Danish siren. The proprietress was screaming abuse at one of her professional entertainers. Some long, sordid, silly story of sexual jealousy, I suppose. The band was deafening. The fine edge of my sense was dulled. It was in a sort of hot nightmare that I saw, through the smoke and the stink of the club, the evil smile of Mrs. Webster. Small as the woman was, she seemed to fill the doorway. She preoccupied the attention in the same way as a snake would have done. She saw me at once and ran almost into my arms excitedly. She whispered something in my ear. I didn't hear it. The club had suddenly been, so as to speak, struck dumb. Lou was coming through the door. Over her shoulders was an opera cloak of deep, rich purple, edged with gold, the garment of an empress, or, shall I say, of a priestess. The whole place stopped still to look at her, and I had thought she was not beautiful. She did not walk upon the ground. Vera incessu patuit dea, as we used to say at school, and as she paced, she chanted from that old magnificent litany of Captain J.F.C. Fuller, O thou golden sheaf of desires, thou art bound by a fair wisp of poppies. I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, Eow. She sang full-throated, with a male quality in her voice. My mind ran to the breaking of dawn after a long night flight. In front, the sun climbs low. How slowly, but westward, look. The land is bright. As if in answer to my thought, her voice rolled forth again. O thou golden wine of the sun, that art poured over the dark breasts of night, I adore thee, Evo, I adore thee, Eow. The first part of the adoration was in a sort of Gregorian chant, varying with the cadence of the words, but the chorus always came back to the same thing. I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. E-A-O is the enunciation of the last word. Every vowel is drawn out as long as possible. It seemed as if she were trying to get the last cubic millimeter of air out of her lungs every time she sang it. O thou crimson vintage of life, that art poured into the jar of the grave, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. Lou reached the table with its dirty, crazy cloth at which we were sitting. She looked straight into my eyes, though I am sure she did not see me. O thou reed colors of desire, that art unhooded by the hands of girls, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. She went back from us like a purple storm cloud, sun-crested, torn from the breast of the morning by some invisible lightning. O thou burning sword of passion, that art torn on the anvil of flesh, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. A wave of almost insane excitement swept through the club. It was like the breaking out of anti-aircraft guns. The band struck up a madder jazz. The dancers raved more tumultuous and breathless fury. Lou had advanced again to our table. We three were detached from the world. Around us rang the shrieking laughter of the crazy crowd. Lou seemed to listen. She broke out once more. O thou whirlwind of laughter, that art meshed in the wild locks of folly, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. I realized with nauseating clarity that Miss Webster was pouring into my ears an account of the character and career of King Lammas. I didn't know how he dares to come to England at all, she said. He lives in a palace called Telepilas, wherever that is. He's over 100 years old, in spite of his looks. He's been everywhere and done everything, and every step he treads is smeared with blood. He's the most evil and dangerous man in London. He's a vampire. He lives on ruined lives. I admit I had the heartiest abhorrence for the man, but for this fiercely bitter denunciation of one who was evidently a close friend of the two world's greatest artists, I did not make his case look blacker. I was not impressed, frankly, with Mrs. Webster as an authority on other people's conduct. O thou dragon prince of the air, that art drunk on the blood of the sunsets, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A. A wild pang of jealousy stabbed me. I was a livid, demoniac spasm. For some reason or other, I had connected this verse of Lou's mysterious chant with the personality of King Lammas. Gretel Webster understood. She insinuated another dose of venom. Oh yes, Mr. Basil, King Lammas is quite the ladies' man. He fascinates them with 1,000 different tricks. Lou is dreadfully in love with him. Once again, the woman had made a mistake. I resented her reference to Lou. I don't remember what I answered. Part of it was to the effect that Lou didn't seem to have been very much injured. Mrs. Webster smiled her subtlest smile. I quite agree, she said sulkily. Lou is the most beautiful woman in London tonight. O thou fragrance of sweet flowers, that art wafted over blue fields of air, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, E-A-O. The state of the girl was extraordinary. It was as if she possessed two personalities in their fullest possibilities, the divine and the human. She was intensely conscious of all that was going on around her, absolute mistress of herself and of her environment. Yet at the same time, she was lost in some unearthly form of rapture, of a kind which, while essentially unintelligible to me, reminded me of certain strange and fragmentary experiences that I had while flying. I suppose everyone has read The Psychology of Flying by L. de Geberne Sievking. I don't think I've ever seen that book. All I need do is to remind you of what he says. All types of men who fly are conscious of this very obscure subtle difference that it has wrought in them. Very few know exactly what it is, hardly any of them can express what they feel, and none of them would admit it if they could. One realizes without any formation into words how that one is oneself, and that each one is entirely separate and can never enter into the recesses of another, which are his foundation of individual life. One feels oneself out of all relation with things, even the most essential, and yet one is aware of this at the same time that everything of which one has ever been aware is a picture invented by one's own mind. The universe is the looking glass of the soul. In that state, one understands all sorts of nonsense. O thou four-square crown of nothing, that circlest the destruction of worlds, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, Eow. I flushed with rage, understanding enough to know what Lou must be feeling as she rolled forth these passionate, senseless words from her volcanic mouth. Gretel's suggestion trickled into my brain. This beastly alcohol brutalizes men. Why is Lou so superb? She has breathed the pure snow of heaven into her nostrils. O thou snow white chalice of love, that art filled with the red lusts of man, I adore thee, Avo, I adore thee, Eow. I tinged and shivered as she sang, and then something, I hardly know what, made me turn and look into the face of Gretel Webster. She was sitting at my right. Her left hand was beneath the table, and she was looking at it. I followed her glance. In the little quadrilateral of the veins whose lower apex is between the first and middle fingers was a tiny heap of sparkling dust. Nothing I had seen before had so attracted me. The sheer bright, infinite beauty of the stuff. I had seen it before, of course, often enough at the hospital, but this was quite a different thing. It was set off by its environment as a diamond as is by its setting. It seemed alive, it sparkled intensely, it was like nothing else in nature unless it be those feathery crystals, wind-blown, that glisten on the lips of crevices. What followed sticks in my memory as if it were a conjurer's trick. I don't know by what gesture she constrained me, but her hand slowly rose, not quite to the level of the table, and my face, hot, flushed, angry, and eager, had bent down toward it. It seemed pure instinct, though I have little doubt now that it was the result of an unspoken suggestion. I drew the little heap of powder through my nostrils with one long breath. I felt even then like a choking man in a coal mine released at the last moment, filling his lungs for the first time with oxygen. I don't know whether this is a common experience. I suspect that my medical training and reading and hearing people talk and the effect of all those ghoulish articles in the newspapers has something to do with it. On the other hand, we must make a good deal of allowance, I think, for such an expert as Gretel Webster. No doubt she was worth her wage to the book. No doubt she had picked me out for a part of Die Recke if I had downed some pretty famous flyers. But none of these thoughts occurred to me at the time. I do not think I have explained with sufficient emphasis the mental state to which I had been reduced by the appearance of Lou. She had become so far beyond my dreams, the unattainable. And I think of somebody else, rather than attainable through drugs, not attainable because of drugs. I mean, that person's personal drug thing, but if they want to talk about that, they're welcome to come on. Leaving out of account the effect of the alcohol, this had left me with an intolerable depression. There was something brutish, something of the baffled rat in my consciousness. O thou vampire queen of the flesh, wound as a snake around the throats of men, I adore thee, though I adore thee. Eow! Was she thinking of Gretel or of herself? Her beauty had choked me, strangled me, torn my throat out. I had become insane with dull, harsh lust. I hated her, but as I raised my head, as the instantaneous madness of cocaine swept from my nostrils to my brain, that's a line of poetry, but I can't help it. Get on. The depression lifted from my mind like the sun coming out of the clouds. I heard, as in a dream, the rich, ripe voice of Lou. O thou fierce whirlpool of passion that art sucked up by the mouth of the sun, I adore thee, though I adore thee. Eow! The whole thing was different. I understood what she was saying. I was part of it. I recognized for one swift second the meaning of my previous depression. It was my sense of inferiority to her. Now I was her man, her mate, her master. I rose to catch her by the waist, but she whirled away down the floor of the club like an autumn leaf before the storm. I caught the glance of Gretel Webster's eyes. I saw them glitter with triumphant malice, and for a moment she and Lou and cocaine and myself were inextricably interlocked in a tangled confusion of ruinous thought. But my physical body was lifting me. It was the same old wild exhilaration that one gets from rising from the ground on one's good days. I found myself in the middle of the floor without knowing how I had got there. I, too, was walking on air. Lou turned her mouth a scarlet orb, as I have seen the sunset over Belgium, over the crinkled line of shore, over the dim blue mystic curve of the sea and sky, with the thought in my mind beating in tune with my excited heart. We didn't miss the arsenal this time. I was the arsenal too. I had exploded. I was the slayer and the slain, and there sailed Lou across the sky to meet me. O thou outrider of the sun, that spurrest the bloody flanks of the wind, I adore thee, though I adore thee. Eow! We came into each other's arms with the inevitableness of gravitation. We were the only two people in the universe, she and I. The only force that existed in the universe was the attraction between us. The force with which we came together set us spinning. We went up and down the floor of the club, but, of course, it wasn't the floor of the club. There wasn't the club. There wasn't anything at all except a delirious feeling that one was everything and had to get on with everything. One was the universe, eternally whirling. There was no possibility of fatigue. One's energy was equal to one's task. And can't help but think. The whirling dervishes. This is sort of an experience that some of the Sufi orders are trying to bring to some people with their ceremonies. O thou dancer with gilded nails that unbraidest the star hair of the night, I adore thee, avo, I adore thee, Lou's slim, lithe body lay in my arm. It sounds absurd, but she reminded me of a light overcoat. Her head hung back. The heavy coils of hair came loose. All of a sudden, the band stopped. For a second, the agony was indescribable. It seemed like annihilation. I was seized with an absolute revulsion against the whole of my surroundings. I whispered like a man in furious haste who must get something vital done before he dies, some words to the effect that I couldn't stick this beastly place any longer. Let's get some air. She answered neither yes or no. I had been wasting words to speak to her at all. O thou bird-sweet river of love, that warblest through the pebbly gorge of life, I adore thee, though I adore thee, E-O! Her voice had sunk to a clear murmur. We found ourselves in the street. The chucker out hailed us as a taxi. I stopped her song at last. My mouth was on her mouth. We were driving in the chariot of the sun through the circus of the universe. We didn't know where we were going, and we didn't care. We had no sense of time at all. There was a sequence of sensations, but there was no means of regulating them. It was as if one's mental clock had suddenly gone mad. I have no gauge of time, subjectively speaking, but it must have been a long while before our mouths separated, for, as this happened, I recognized the fact that we were very far from the club. She spoke to me for the first time. Her voice thrilled, dark, unfathomably deep of being. I tinged in every fiber, and what she said was this: your kiss is bitter with cocaine. It is quite impossible to give those who have no experience of these matters any significance of what she said. It was a boiling cauldron of wickedness that had suddenly bubbled over. Her voice rang rich with hellish glee. It simulated me to male intensity. I caught her in my arms more fiercely. The world went black before my eyes. I perceived nothing any more. I can hardly even say that. I felt. I was feeling itself. I was all the possibilities of feeling fulfilled to the uttermost. Yet, coincident with this, my body went on automatically with its own private affairs. She was escaping me. Her face eluded mine. O thou storm-drunk breath of the winds that pant in the bosom of the mountains, I adore thee, avo, I adore thee, E-O. Her breast sobbed out its song with weird intensity. I understood in a flash that this was her way of resistance. She was trying to insist herself that she was a cosmic force, that she was not a woman at all, that a man meant nothing to her. She fought desperately against me, sliding so serpent-like about the bounds of space. Of course, it was really the taxi, but I didn't know it then, and I'm not quite sure of it now. Yeah, you emailed me about that. I wish to God, I said to myself in a fury, I had one more sniff of that snow, I'd show her. At that moment she threw me off as if I had been a feather. I had felt myself all of a sudden No more good. Quite unaccountably, I had collapsed, and I had found myself, to my amazement, knocking out quite a little pile of cocaine from a 10-gram bottle, of which I had in my trousers pocket, onto my hand, and sniffed it up into my nostrils with greedy relish. Drugs were a lot cheaper and a lot purer back then, by the way. Don't ask me how it got there. I suppose Greta Webster must have done it somehow. My memory is an absolute blank. That's one of the funny things about cocaine. You never know quite what trick it is going to play you. I was reminded of the American professor who boasted that he had a first class memory, whose only defect was that it wasn't reliable. I'm equally unable to tell you whether the fresh supply of the drug increased my powers or whether Lou had simply tired of teasing me, but her own accord, she writhed into my arms. Her hands and mouth were heavy on my heart. There's some more poetry, that's the way it takes one. Rhythm seems to come natural. Everything is one grand harmony. It is impossible that anything should be out of tune. The voice of Lou seemed to come from an enormous distance, a deep, low, sombre chant. O thou low moans of fainting maids, that art caught up in the strong sobs of love, I adore thee, avo, I adore thee, ow. That was it. Her engine and my engine, for the first time working together. All accidents had disappeared. There was nothing but the unison of two rich race rhythms. You know how it is when you are flying. You see a speck in the air. You can't tell by your eyes if it is your brother Boca coming to pot you, or one of our own, or one of the allied planes, but you can tell them apart, foe from friend, by the different beat of their engines. So one comes to apprehend a particular rhythm as sympathetic, another as hostile. So here were Lou and I flying together beyond the bounds of eternity, side by side, her low, persistent throb, in perfect second to my great galloping boom. Things of this sort take place outside time and space. It is quite wrong to say what happened in the taxi ever began or ended. What happened was that our attention was distracted from the eternal truth of this essential marriage of our souls by the chauffeur who had stopped the taxi and opened the door. Here we are, sir, he said, with a grin. Sir Peter Pendragon and Lou Lalaham automatically reappeared before all things decorum. The shock bit the incident deeply into my mind. I remember with the utmost distinctness paying the man off and then being lost in absolute blank wonder as to how it happened that we were where we were, who had given the address to the man, and where we were. I can only suppose that, consciously or subconsciously, Lou had done it, for she showed no embarrassment in pressing the electric bell. The door opened immediately. I was snowed under by an avalanche of crimson light that poured from a vast studio. Lou's voice soared high and clear. O thou scarlet dragon of flame, enmeshed in the web of a spider, I adore thee, avo, I adore thee, eow. A revulsion, a feeling rushed over me like a storm, for in the doorway, with Lou's arms round his neck, was the tall, black, sinister figure of King Lammas. I knew you wouldn't mind our dropping in, although it is so late, she was saying. It would have been perfectly simple for him to acquiesce with a few conventional words. Instead, he was pontifical. There are 4 gates to one palace. The floor of that palace is of silver and gold. Lapis lazuli and jasper are there, and all rare scents. jasmine and rose, and the emblems of death. Let him enter in turn or at once the four gates. Let him stand on the floor of the palace. I was unfathomably angry. Why must the man always act like a cad or a clown? But there was nothing to do but to accept the situation and walk in politely. He shook hands with me formally, yet with greater intensity than is customary between well-bred strangers in England, and as he did so, he looked me straight in the face. His deadly, inscrutable eyes burned their way clean through to the back of my brain and beyond, yet his words were entirely out of keeping with his actions. What does the poet say? He said loftily. Rather, a joke to fill up on coke, or words to that effect. Sir Peter, how in the devil's name did he know what I had been taking? Men who know things have no right to go about the world. Something said irritably inside myself, but something else obscurely answered it. That accounts for what the world has always done, made martyrs of its pioneers. I felt a little ashamed to tell the truth, but Lammas put me at my ease. He waved his hand towards a huge armchair covered with Persian tapestries. He gave me a cigarette and lighted it for me. He poured out a drink, a Benedictine, into a huge curved glass and put it on a little table by my side. That's the type of wine, isn't it? I had an uncomfortable feeling that I was a puppet in his hands. There was only one other person in the room. On a settee covered with leopard skins lay one of the strangest women I had ever seen. She wore a white evening dress with pale yellow roses, and the same flowers were in her hair. She was a half-blood negress from North Africa. Miss Fatma Halaj, said Lammas. I rose and bowed, but the girl took no notice. She seemed in utter oblivion of sublunary matters. Her skin was of that deep, rich night sky blue, which only very vulgar eyes imagine to be black. The face was gross and sensual, but the brows wide and commanding. There is no type of intellect so essentially aristocratic as the Egyptian, when it happens to be of the rare light strain. Don't be offended, said Lammas, in a soft voice. She includes us all in her sublime disdain. Lou was sitting on the arm of the couch, her ivory white, long, crooked fingers groping the dark girl's hair. Somehow or another, I felt nauseated. I was uneasy, embarrassed. For the first time in my life, I didn't know how to behave. A thought popped into my mind. It was simply fatigue. I needn't bother about that. As if in answer to my thought, Lou took a small, cut glass bottle with a gold-chased top from her pocket, unscrewed it, and shook out some cocaine on the back of her hand. She flashed a provocative glance in my direction. The studio suddenly filled with the reverberation of her chant. O thou naked virgin of love, that art caught in a net of wild roses, I adore thee, oh, I adore thee, e-ow. Quite so, agreed King Lammas cheerfully. You'll excuse me, I know, if I ask whether you have any great experience of the effects of cocaine. Lou glowered at him. I preferred to meet him frankly. I deliberately put a large dose on the back of my hand and sniffed it up. Before I had finished, the effect had occurred. I felt myself any man's master. Well, as a matter of fact, I said superciliously, tonight's the first time I ever took it, and it strikes me as pretty good stuff. Lamas smiled enigmatically. Ah, yes. What does the old poet say? Milton is it? Stab your demoniac smile to my brain. Soak me in cognac, love, and cocaine. Well, I don't know if Milton knew about cocaine, but how silly you are, cried Lou. Cocaine wasn't invented in the time of Milton. Okay. Was that Milton's fault? Retorted King Lamas. The inaptitude, the disconnectedness of his thought was somehow disconcerting. He turned his back on her and looked me straight in the face. It strikes you as pretty good stuff, Sir Peter, he said, and so it is. I'll have a dose myself to show there's no ill feeling. He suited the action to the words. I had to admit the man began to intrigue me. What was his game? I hear you're one of our best flying men, Sir Peter. He went on. I have flown a bit now and then, I admitted. Well, an airplane's a pretty good means of travel, but unless you're an expert, you're likely to make a pretty sticky finish. Thank you very much, I said, nettled at his tone. As it happens, I'm a medical student. Oh, that's all right then, of course. He agreed with a courtesy which somehow cut deeper into my self-esteem than if he had openly challenged my competence. In that case, he continued, I hope to arouse your professional interest in a case of what I think you will agree is something approaching indiscretion. My little friend here arrived tonight, or rather last night, full up to the neck with morphia. Dissatisfied with the results, she swallowed a large dose of anhalonium. Lewini, reckless of pharmaceutical incompatibility, presumably to pass away the time, she has drunk an entire bottle of Grand Marnier Cordon Rouge, and now, feeling yourself slightly indisposed for some reason at which it would be presumptuous to guess, she is setting things right by an occasional indulgence in this pretty good stuff of yours. He had turned away from me and was watching the girl intently. My glance followed his. I saw her deep blue skin fade to dreadful pallor. She had lost her healthy color. She suggested a piece of raw meat which is just beginning to go bad. I jumped to my feet. I knew instinctively that the girl was about to collapse. The owner of the studio was bending over her. He looked at me over his shoulder, out of the corners of his eyes. A case of indiscretion, he observed with bitter irony. For the next quarter of an hour, he fought for the girl's life. King Lammas was a very skilled physician, though he had never studied medicine officially. But I was not aware of what was going on. Cocaine was singing in my veins. I cared for nothing. Lou came over impulsively and flung herself across my knees. She held the goblet of Benedictine to my mouth, chanting ecstatically, O thou sparkling wine cup of light, whose foaming is the heart's blood of the stars, I adore thee, vo, I adore thee, e-ah-oh. We swooned in a deep, deep trance. Lammas interrupted us. You mustn't think me inhospitable, he said. She's come round, all right, but I ought to drive her home. Make yourselves at home while I'm away, or let me take you where you want to go. Another interruption occurred. The bell rang. Lammas sprang to the door. A tall old man was standing on the steps. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, said Lammas. Love is the law, love under will, replied the other. It was like a challenge and countersign. I've got to talk to you for an hour. Of course, I'm at your service, replied our host. The only thing is, he broke off, my brain was extraordinarily clear. My self-confidence was boundless. I felt inspired. I saw the way out. A little devil in my heart. What an excellent scheme to be alone with Lou. Look here, Mr. Lamus, I said, speaking very quickly. I can drive any kind of car. Let me take Miss Halaj home. The Arab girl was on her feet behind me. Yes, yes, she said, in a faint yet exciting voice. That will be much the best thing. Thanks awfully. They were the first words she had spoken. Yes, yes, chimed in Lou. I want to drive in the moonlight. The little group was huddled in the open doorway. On one side of the dark crimson tides of electricity, on the other the stainless splendor of our satellite. O thou frail bluebell of moonlight, thou art lost in the gardens of the stars. I adore thee, although I adore thee. E-O. The scene progressed with vivid rapidity of a dream. We were in the garage, out of it, into the streets, at the Egyptian Girls Hotel, and then, well, chapter 3 is called Faten, and I will get to that later. So that finishes over the top, and allow me to switch here with the spring equinox, but let me see if there's something that I can add. So let me, oh, I think it was missed. I am not on Microsoft servers. But I want to leave that part off. No, okay, didn't pause. So the spring equinox spur coming into being, right? 5:30 to 7:34. The before discussion, 7:37 to 9:22. The gathering itself, 9:22 to 9:47 a.m. The after discussion. I opened in the name of, with the circle right. I used in other voluntary rites. I worked it into a creation myth. I don't really... Vianrot, I'm not sure what that means. I stride with the 7th Enochian key. There was a Futhark rune layout, you know, those 24 runes. And there was a meditation. There was a story about power from the Upanishads. 30 prostrations. So with the English and with the Arabic too. 760, 206, 1315, 1649 through 50, 17, 107 to 109, 19, 58, 22, 18, 22, 77, 25, 60, 27, 25 through 26. Is it 24 through 26, 25, 24 through 26, I thought. 32, 15, 38, 24, 41, 37, 38, 53, 62, 84, 21, 96, 19. Now, I've later realized that that's perhaps better as a summer solstice selection, but Hebrew blessing for the honey and chamomile, Persian greeting for spring, and drinking of the symbolic tea, of course. And Saturday the 21st, I watched the mystical tradition. Yeah, is this 2009 June, March? There was a lime scent offering representing divination. Sunday the 22nd, Sleep City on Abagani 75. I listened to Abdabari, Surah 1 and 2. Qari, Zephyr, Basami 24 to 26. I read C.G. Jung's The Undiscovered Self to page 125. An assorted spice offering representing lightning, lighten. I watched The Mystical Tradition 30 to 36 and its biography, Stonehenge Decoded, Secrets of the Druids, Monday the 23rd, Sleep Sea on Abdagani 50, listen to Abdabari Surah 3, Qari, Zafar Qasami, Surah 24 to 27, Spice Scent Offering representing love. Tuesday the 24th, Sleep Sea on Abdagani 37 or 50, or is it even 100? So I don't know how many tracks some of these things are on. I watched The Mystical Tradition, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam 25 through 30. I listened to Ari Zafar Qasami 28 through 30, Grapefruit Steam Offering representing what's that? I read Stranger by the River, a poetic book on the secret knowledge of God by Paul Twitchell, page 1 through 35, 417 to 434. Enochian Key 19, Ather 25, 512 through 22 p.m. Ather 9. Okay, I don't see when. 9 is 512 to 522. Ather 15, 7 to 7:14 p.m. Wednesday the 25th, I listened to Abdabari, Surah 5 and 6, Qari, Zephyr, Basami, 32 through 36. I watched The Mystical Tradition, 31 through 36, in the biography, Sleep Sea, Abdulghani, Surah 4, I read Stranger by the River. What page? Oh, page 36 to 77. Enochian Key 19, Author 16, 401 to 4:46 p.m. The 18th, Enochian Author 5:13 to 5:36 p.m. Thursday, Sleep Sea on Abdagani 18. Listen to Abdabari Surah 7 through 9, and Qari Zafar Qasami Surah 37 through 40. Enochian Key 19, Author 29, 10:36 to 10:51 a.m. 25, 11:46 to 12:05 p.m. Spice Scent Offering representing awakening. 24th Enochian Author 6:53 to 7:17. I watched The Western Mystical Tradition 25 to 30, Friday the 27th, 31 through 36 in biography. I read page 78 to 137, A Stranger by the River, the 1970 Ekankar edition. There's a little more leeway with some of that stuff because, it's because of its religious context, right? So there's more freedom to convey such matters. And if you're the same person earlier, if I don't get an email from you, then I'll see that. I listened to Abdabari Surah 10 through 12, Qari Zafar Qasami 41 through 45, Saturday the 28th, Sleep CD on Abdulghani 33, Abdabari Surah 13 through 19, and Qari Zafar Qasami 46 through 56. Read Stranger by the River, page 138 to 195. There was a Tabligh group from, where are they from? At Masjid An-Nur, and 1:13 to 10:30 p.m. I spent time with that group. Sunday, the 29th, Sleep Study on Abdul Ghani 1. Well, that's obviously Surah 1, if it's 1, but beyond that, I don't know how many tracks. Orange Scent Offering, representing Purifying. I watched The Naked Archaeologist, Masada, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Naked Archaeologist, The Haunted History of Halloween, 1:15 to 5:30, Tabligh Program. I've joined in their program. I'm not sure what I say there. I listened to Abdabari Surah 20 through 22, and Qari Zafar Qasami 51 through 60, Sleep Study on Abdabari 18. Is that close? Ending suffering or so. 712 through 731, and that analgesics and anesthetics, to the extent of what they're talking about in the Diary of the Drug Fiend, would be talking about 7:12 to 7:31 p.m. The third Enochian key, I had a experience that I shared on that channel that wasn't this meditation, this particular time, but I thought that was worth sharing. I watched American Experience, People's Temple, Tuesday the 31st. I read Shamans and Kushtaka's North Coast Tales of the Supernatural, page 1 through 24. I listened to Abdabari, Surah 23 and 24, and Qari Zafar Qasami 61 through 70, Sleep Study on the Ghani 28, Second Enochian Key 2:36 to 3:29 p.m., 3 to 6:02 p.m. I discoursed with the next door neighbor on 2 symbols and 5. Okay. April 1st, 2009. Citrus Scent Offering, representing Dreams. I listened to Abdabari, Surah 28-36. Qari Zafar Qasami, Surah 71 through 80. I read Mary Giraudo Beck's Shaman and Kushtaka's North Coast Tales of the Supernatural, page 58. Fifth Enochian Key, 7:11 to 7:36 p.m. Thursday, the 2nd. Sleep Study on Al-Baghani 16, 31 to 5:48 p.m. Meditated with the 6th Enochian Key, Qari Zafar Qasami, Surah 81 to 99. Citrus Orange Scent Offering, representing Weddings. Friday the 3rd, Red Shamans and Kushtaka, Northwest Tales of the Supernatural. Mary Graudo's Beck, Graudo Beck's, page 88. I listened to Abdabari Surah 50 to 114. I watched the Hizbul Bahar. April the 3rd, 7th Enochian Key, 7 to 7:13 p.m. April the 4th, Sleeps on Abdagani 57. I read page 106. Ameri Graudo Beck's Shamans and Kush Tak, North Coast Tales of the Supernatural. I watched O Vision of the Sea, BBC's The Miracles of Jesus, The Bible's Greatest Secrets, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Christmas, The Haunted History of Halloween, Amber Scent Offering, representing peace of mind, 6:50 to 10:14 p.m. The 8th key, although that looks like an AM, doesn't it? The 5th, I read Shamans and Kushtakas, North Coast Tales of the Supernatural, Mary Goodell Beck's. Now, if you're tired and you fall asleep and you miss a time, and if you've been obliged to say a particular prayer in a certain watch, there's no fault on you if you say it once you get up. I watched the Hesbel Bahar, Litany of the Sea, of Sheikh Abul Hassan Shadhuli, the Arabic recitation with English explanation, Sheikh Nuruddin Durki, a Habib Laman production, www.greenmountainschool.org, The Devil's Bible, first half of The Hunt for Noah's Ark, The Haunted History of Halloween, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Christmas, Bible's Greatest Secrets, the BBC's Miracles of Jesus, Amber Scent Offering, representing a peace of mind, Monday the 6th, Sleep Seed on Al-Bughani 9, I listened to Fahim al-Quran Dua and Amina Allahi's Surah 12 and Fahim al-Quran Part 1. So I listened to Supplication with the Surah 12 and the Para 1 of 30. Enochian Key 9, 11:39 to 11:58 a.m. Amber Scent Offering, P9. I discussed with another of the neighbors, sects, missionaries, and rationalism. I watched the Hezbollah Bahar, Tuesday the 7th, Sleepsy Abdulghani 17. I read The Art of Passover, page 1 through 59. I watched the Hezbollah Bahar, Litany of the Sea, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Christmas, The Haunted History of Halloween, The Bible's Greatest Secrets, BBC's Miracles of Jesus. I listened to Fahim al-Quran Dua and Para 2 and 3. Green Tea, Mist Offering. I got more into the symbolism of green tea this year, really, and other years. I've developed more of an idea of what it means to me. But Enochian Key 19, Author 29, 3:48 to 4:35 p.m., 5:13 to 5:34 p.m. Wednesday the 8th, I read page 119, The Art of Passover, compiled and edited by Rabbi Stephen O'Parnes with essays by Bonnie Dara Michaels and Gabriel M. Goldstein. I listened to Fahim al-Quran Dua and Para 4 and 5. Sleep CD on Al-Bughani 20. Orange Scent Offering, representing beauty. I watched the Hizbul Bahar of Sheikh Abul Hassan Ashaduli, The Bible's Greatest Secrets, BBC's Miracles of Jesus, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Christmas, The Haunted History of Halloween. A lot of stuff that was like just like everyday thing. I didn't really make note of it, so that's why I go. So 4 to 4:55 p.m. The 12th Enochian Key, 5:24 to 5:40. The 24th Enochian Author, 3:13 to 4:17 p.m. I read Tuplet Thol. So the Passover reading, I did that 5:33 to 5:45 p.m. the 22nd author, 6:50 to 7:06 p.m. I watched the Hizbul Bahar Arabic recitation with English explanation. South Park, The Truth About Mormons. I guess this ended up in conversations with the Princess of Cups, of Mormons, really. Again, not a usual subject, despite my history in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but yeah. My Friday the 10th, orange scent offering representing brightening disposition. I watched the Hizbul Bahar of Sheikh Nuruddin Turki, The Haunted History of Halloween, Christmas Unwrapped, The History of Christmas, BBC's Miracles of Jesus, The Bible's Greatest Secrets. I read Tiplet Gushim, 10:16 to 10:34, and Barch Doody, 10:36 to 11:05, for Passover. Enochian Key 19, 21, 3:44 to 4:10 p.m. Saturday the 11th. Sleep Seat on the Body 5. I read Reader's Digest, complete guide of the Bible, page 12 to 19. Genesis, 12:05 to 12:48 p.m. 20 to 29, 11:06 to 11:59 p.m. Let's do Babron Dua, the supplication. The 19th Enochian Key, the 15th author. 2 to 2:50. Habib production. Sunday the 12th. It was www.greenmountainschool.org. I listened to Sleep CD on the Ghani Surah 15, or just Miracles of Jesus, The History of Christmas, The Haunted History of Halloween, page 30 to 40. Exodus, Reader's Digest, and Complete Guide to the Bible, an illustrated book, companion to the Scriptures, 12:30 to 12:58 p.m., 1:11 to 1:32 p.m., 2 to 2:21. The 19th Enochian author, the 19th Enochian Key, the 16th author, 2:50 to 3:16 p.m. Leviticus, page 44 to 52. Spice offering, scent offering representing exorcism. I discussed with the next door neighbor the sort of things that 10 to 11 p.m. I watched the last half of God versus the Devil. Was that History Channel, or what was that? Oh, I discussed with the neighbor musical rights. Okay. Myths and the Christian Story. Monday the 13th, 10:06 to 10:51. Numbers, page 53 to 61. Reader's Digest, Complete Guide to the Bible, an illustrated book companion. Okay. 10:59 to 11:28 p.m. Deuteronomy, page 62 to 71. I listened. Is that 5:38 to 1? Or 59? Yeah. Listen to Fahmukran Dua and Para 8 through 10. I watched the Hizbul Bahar Shadaliya Sufi Order, the 19th Enochian author of the 19th Enochian Key, 6:36 to 10:35 p.m. Amber, Peace of Mind, Scent Offering, Tuesday the 14th. I listened to Fahmak Baran Dua and Para 11 through 13. I watched the Hizbul Bahar I read page 59, The Jewish Art Masterpieces from the Israel Museum by Iris Fish. 302 to 320. The 18th author of the 19th Enochian Key, 5:11 to 5:30 p.m., 6:18 to 6:43. A Wednesday, the 15th, Sleep Sea on Abdulghani, 7. A lesson to the Fahamakran Dua and Para 14 and 16. I watched the Hizbul Bahar. I read Jewish art masterpieces from the Israel Museum to page 118. The 11th author of the 19th Enochian Key, 3 to 5:33 p.m. Thursday the 16th, The Sleep Sea on Abagani, 22. The 19th, the 9th Enochian author, 10:49 to 149 to 140. 10:49 to 11:49 a.m. The 8th author, 3:55 to 4:12 p.m. Spice Scent Offering, representing Nation. I watched the Hizbul Bahar, Arabic recitation, and such. And next program, if I'm thinking we'd get to it, we're going to have a few visionary experiences to share, and I will close here with a few pages or something of English translations of Avestan prayers, but maybe I should give a different backing, right? I praise and worship according to law of the Lord of mindfulness, the glory, dexterity, and strength of the obedience angel, the holy, the strong, the word incarnate, possessed the powerful weapons in order to smite the Davas. Is it praise? It's, I bring to mind. Because I'm not worshiping angels here, but do thou, O holy obedience angel, grant luster and glory unto him. I am to the person who worships with the holy obedience angel, with the best officiating priest, with the excellent officiating priest, and with the officiating priest strain prepared carefully by the good people. Do thou grant unto him the soundness of the body and happiness, victorious wealth, with fullness of welfare and progeny of innate wisdom. Do thou grant unto him long life in heaven and righteous, bright, comfortable. May it be so as I pray. And Hazangrem, may there be 1,000 of health, 10,000 of health. May there be health 1,000 times. Jasameh of Engamasta, oh, mindful, come unto my help of the well-shapen and beautiful strength of, what does Befrat mean? Created by Ahura of Vana Ente Uparatat, the Yazata providing over the victorious ascendancy of Minoram, giver of taste of food, and of Ve Yazad, working on high, who is created superior to other creations. May the help of all of them reach me through you. O Lord of mindfulness, O Ve Yazad, get me the help of thy wind, which is according to the beneficial spirit of the sky, taking course according to the law of nature, of the endless time, of the time ordained for a long period. May the help of these all reach me, O Hormaz. And so, okay, I was hoping that they were going to translate these names completely here, but Kerfa Most. For the expiation of sins I obtain the reward of meritorious deeds, and for the sake of the love of the soul, may complete righteous reach. And for the sake of the love of the soul, may complete righteous reach all the doers of good deeds, and all the faithful residing in the seven regions of the earth, as wide as the earth, as long as the river, as high as the sun. May there be long life of the righteous. May it be so, as I pray. Hoshbam. Thou shouldest thus recite these under mentioning verses in the Vestin, which are most victorious, efficacious, and healing. Thou shouldest chant the 5 Ahanabars. Ahanabar protects the body. Homage be unto thee, O dawn. This is in order to raise the weapon against the wicked evil spirit, against the demon wrath, a terrible weapon against the Mazanian demons. And in order to raise weapons against all the demons, against the revengeful wicked ones, and to dedicate to him the greatest of all, Ahu and Ratu, who is the Lord of mindfulness. May Gana Meno be defeated. May there be imperfections upon Ahriman 100,000 times. These are for the growth or glory of Ahura Mazd, possessed of treasures and glorious, for the increase of the Ameshaspans, for the increase of the star Tishturia, possessed of treasures and glories, for the increase of the holy man, and for the increase of all the holy creatures of Spena Minnow. I praise the good man and woman who are, who were, and will be of the entire creation of holy mindful. I praise Ashis who come for help, and I praise the truthful ones who come for help, the protector for a long time, the friend, and herself a willing follower, instructing companion and keeper of all healing virtues for the waters, cattle, and plants, and the destroyer of all evils of the demons, wicked men who are tormentors of this house, and Lord of this house. I pray good charitable works and righteous deeds, which are of very excellent dignity and superior, and which subsequently are attaining to affording shelter for a long time, so that the greatest, best, and excellent righteousness may reach us. 4. The worship with the archangels, and for their adoration, their propitiation, for their glorification, the prosperity of this house, for the prosperity of the entire creation of righteousness, for the entire antagonism of the entire creation of wicked, that righteous may attain to us. On account of truthfulness, I sing the glory of him who is of good wisdom, and of those who are his archangels, holy immortals. At thy will and with happiness, thou, O Lord of mindfulness, rulest over thine own creations. At thy will, over waters, over trees, over all good things, the seas of righteousness, thou appoint the holy man a ruler, not the infidel. May the righteous be ruling at will. May the infidel, fallen into calamity, cast out of the creations of the Holy Spirit, having failed, be not ruling at will. I, who am Zarathustra, will guide the leaders of the house, of the clans, of the towns and lands, to think, to speak, to act in conformity with this religion, which is of the Lord, revealed by the keeper of the red camels, so that our minds full of joy and our souls attain the best, our bodies full of heavenly glory for the best world. O Lord of mindfulness, may these reach openly, though the best, righteous, excellent righteousness. May we catch sight of thee, and may we come near thee, and attain to thy eternal friendship.
that we may become worthy of thy friendship. Korshed Nyayesh. No, I'm not saying that I'm calling up these angels or something for intercession. I'm just relating these, and some of this language is not as precise as some others. So, the rejoicing of the Lord of mindfulness. In the name of the Creator, I praise and invoke the Lord of mindfulness, who is the keeper of treasures, glorious, omniscient, perfecter of deeds, the Lord of lords, the king over all kings, protector of the creator of all things created, the giver of daily bread, the natural and the powerful, without beginning or end, the bestower of good things, the forgiver of sins, the loving, the omnipotent, the wise, the nourisher of all creations. May majesty and glory of Hormaz, who is the Lord and the protector, producer, be on the increase. May the immortal, the brilliant, and the swift-footed sun, the Korshed Yazata, come to my help, or whatever God would want to send, right? And some people would bow with this. Homage unto thee thrice, O Lord of mindfulness. See, the bowing and the prostrating stuff, that's only for God. Prior to other creatures, may there be homage unto the holy immortals, all of one accord, with Korshed Yazata. May this reach Hormazd, the holy mortals, the Fervashis, the guardian spirits of the righteous, and may this reach Vayu Yazata, created at the long period. I praise with good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Through my thoughts, words, and deeds, I uphold all good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. I renounce all evil thoughts, evil words, and evil deeds. I dedicate unto you, ye holy immortals, worship and praise, and with the very life of my own body, through thoughts, words, deeds, and with my consciousness, I praise with righteousness. And to recite with the raising of the head, probably to look where you might prostrate if you could prostrate from that spot, but that's not part of the ritual. May there be homage unto the Lord of mindfulness, unto the holy immortals, unto the Meher Yazata, the Lord of wide pastures, and unto the swift-footed horse, Korshid Yazata. May the homage be these two eyes that are of the Lord of mindfulness, unto the guardians of the first created bull, unto the guardians of Geomard, and then may be homage to the guardian of Zarathustra. Zarathustra is the keeper of the yellow camels, and Spitma means white power, but not in a racist sense. Homage in the entire creation of the righteous that is coming into being, and that will be. And do thou strengthen the body through good thoughts, righteousness, strength, and prosperity. This highest light among the high sun, we regard thy beautiful body. We regard as a beautiful body belonging to you, O mindful. And I'm going to leave that rest here. So let me double check before I